Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started, I would like to mention a few reminders. If you experience any issues with your audio or video during the session, kindly refresh your browser to address this concern. And if you have any question for our speaker, please do feel free to post your questions in the video wall, which is located in the right side of your screen. For our first training activity today, we're proud to bring you the English training session of Dubai International Property Consultant. This session will provide the audience with an introduction to the course, specifically aimed at qualifying internationally certified real estate professionals to promote, market, and sell Dubai real estate properties in countries where they're certified with DIPC designation approved and accredited by the Dubai Land Department. Our speaker for this session is a renowned consultant and trainer at DREI since 2009 and specializes in various real estate topics related to regulation and real estate education, real estate brokerage, and many other topics. Ms. Hiba also gained hands-on experience as a senior auditor at KPMG Chicago, an international audit and consulting firm. Thereafter, she went on to join Landmark Properties, a Dubai real estate company, and as the CEO, led a team of 200 professionals from various departments. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome the consultant and trainer of Dubai Real Estate Institute, Ms. Hiba Javer. Ms. Hiba, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks again, Karen, for having me here again. I'm just gonna, again, make sure that we don't encounter the same technical difficulties that we encountered last time, but I think we are in good shape. So thanks for having me again, and welcome everyone to the International Property Show. As Karen mentioned, my name is Hiba Jaber. I'm a senior advisor and trainer with the Dubai Real Estate Institute. I'm here again because 2 days ago I presented pretty much the same information, but in a summarized version in the Arabic language. However, many of you have asked us to pretty much present the information that we have about DIPC, which stands for Dubai International Property Consultant designation in English, and that's why I'm here with you again today. Again, as Karen mentioned, we'll be happy to take any questions that you guys might have towards the end of the session. Of course, as you guys have already probably heard in previous sessions that we've hosted through the International Property Show, Dubai Real Estate Institute is the educational arm of Dubai Land Department. And I'll take you through just to give you a little bit more of an introduction about the course and what else we actually do at the REI. As you guys know, the real estate world should not be complicated or confusing, especially with the presence of real estate professionals who have the knowledge, skill, ability, and expertise to make the right and best decisions. Dubai Real Estate Institute has trained and qualified more than 80,000 real estate professionals until the academic year of 2019-2020 to help provide modern and sophisticated service to this industry. This has a positive impact on the real estate investment environment in Dubai and the UAE in general. DREI puts all its resources and efforts towards elevating the quality of education so our real estate practitioners would evolve and become independent thinkers and capable of making informed decisions. DREI strives to provide resources and advanced curricula, courses, and training programs in collaboration with internationally recognized universities, institutions, and organizations with the aim of spreading and sustaining real estate knowledge and awareness, and always have been keen to keep abreast of developments in the real estate market. DREI offers locally and internationally accredited certificates and helps trainees to have a strong foundation and understand the different aspects of the real estate business. Now, of course, with the increasing popularity and ease of e-learning, especially during what I usually call the COVID era, DREI is introducing a series of online courses which include video, audio, and other supplemental resources that present information in new, engaging ways to enhance the learning experience. All of this is available within a user-friendly platform, allowing the user to access the coursework as often as needed, whenever it fits the user's schedule. DIPC specifically, as I mentioned, being the Dubai International Property Consultant, is a designation that is offered to internationally certified real estate agents and brokers. Why did we introduce this course? Simply because we have had a lot of questions, a lot of interest from brokers, agents, pretty much all stakeholders in the real estate industry that have asked us about wanting to be part of the Dubai real estate market, even if they don't live in Dubai. So they are real estate professionals, they're licensed, they're experienced in their home country. However, they don't live in Dubai, they don't work in Dubai, but they still want to be able to somehow take part in the growth and, of course, the success of the real estate industry in Dubai. And this is pretty much why we've introduced this designation. So this course is developed to qualify internationally certified real estate professionals to promote, market, and sell Dubai real estate properties and developments in the countries in which they are certified through their affiliation with a DLD approved and registered investment promotion trustee. So the number one condition that has to be met is you have to be a licensed broker or agent in the country that basically you reside in. In the first, it is basically, to be honest with you, the first course of many to be launched online with the intention of reaching the interested audience worldwide. So that happened even before Corona, before COVID, that pretty much, like I said earlier, forced us all to employ technology in order to be able to reach pretty much all the stakeholders across the world. The DIPC online course qualifies you to earn the DIPC designation while saving time by learning simply from the comfort of your own home or office and at your own pace. For $200, which is approximately 755 UAE dirham, you can get certified as an international property consultant and become an international Dubai Real Estate Institute member. Over 500 agents to this day have earned their DIPC designation and are considered iDreamers, as I usually like to call them, which is again short for International Dubai Real Estate Institute member. This course can be accessed through, of course, the DREI website, which is www.drei.gov.ae. So if you are interested in participating in that course, post my session today, feel free to visit our website, drei.gov.ae, and you can see it right there in order for you to go ahead and register for it. The International Dubai Real Estate Institute membership, I'll also want to use this opportunity or today's platform on IPS to give you a bit of an overview on it. So if you're looking up to upskill, have access to an international network of real estate professionals and open a diverse range of opportunities from across the globe, the iDream program is definitely for you. Membership of iDream is open to all real estate professionals. The iDream program is designed to give you international exposure and unparalleled networking opportunities by connecting you to more than 1,000 active real estate professionals around the world. As a member, You will have access to a wide range of benefits, exclusive discounts, networking events, business tools, real estate market data that is designed to help you succeed in today's market. Why should you even consider joining iDream? Well, DREI, as you now know, is an accredited institution with a comprehensive regional and international database. As advocates of smart and sustainable market growth, it engages its database to help its members expand their portfolio, gain knowledge, and tap into new opportunities within the GCC region and beyond. As part of the iDream initiative, DREI and DLD have actively built partnerships with international stakeholders to make it easier and safer for investors to engage with the local real estate representation. iDream member network programs can link you with new business networks, again, locally and globally. As an iDreamer, you will unlock a directory of accredited individuals, and that's the key here. Accredited meaning certified, registered, legit professionals and institutions to get deals done right. iDream is key to taking your business internationally. You can join through different membership schemes. So you can join as an elite member, as a corporate member, or as an individual member. Join today to unlock the potential of your business and to take advantage of the many opportunities provided to DREI members. For more information about iDream, because I can go on and about it, but again, due to the time limit that we have today through this session, feel free to either check the website again, www.drei.gov.ae, or to email us at info.drei@dubailand.gov.ae, and of course we'll be more than happy to give you more information about it. The DIPC course outline basically covers a lot of information that will equip you to learn how do we do business in Dubai, or basically the Dubai version of doing real estate transactions. We usually start off by giving you a brief history of real estate development in Dubai, the key stakeholders and their defined roles, brokers, laws, and obligations. As you know, the broker law differs based on where you operate in each country. Not only that, within the Emirates, we have also different laws that apply for the real estate sector based on the emirate that you operate in. So Dubai has its own unique set of laws and regulations pertaining to the real estate industry, and that's pretty much what we do within that course, is to equip you with knowledge about these laws and regulations, because it does impact your profession directly. We also give you an idea about the developer registration process, the requirements, the ownership registration process and its requirements, a whole sales model and the process as well, the landlord and tenant rights and obligations, because it's also very much related to the sales environment or to the sales process. And we finish the course by giving you a knowledge assessment quiz. So as I mentioned, the first unit is to give you an introduction about the major developments that have happened in the real estate market, of course, as a testimony to the vision of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and the ruler of the Emirate of Dubai. And that video really shows you pretty much how once upon a time, Dubai was technically famous for its iconic building, which was the Dubai World Trade Center on Sheikh Zayed Road, to pretty much through the 2013, which is the year that Dubai announced its winning of the Expo 2020, which, as you know now, will happen in 2021. The second unit defines Dubai Land Department and the role, along with the various organizations that support reports and fall under the Dubai Land Department. So we give you in a nutshell an overview about what Dubai Land Department is all about, in terms of it being a system of registration, the sorts of things that gets registered under the Dubai Land Department, and then we take each and every organization that falls under the Dubai Land Department. We talk about the role, we're talking about what they do. Specifically, we address the role of RERA, which is the regulators of the industry, DREI, as I mentioned earlier, the educators of the industry, Real Estate Investment Promotion Center, the RDC, which is the Rental Dispute Center, Emirates Real Estate Solutions, ERIS, which I will mention a bit more about specifically their role and what they do in terms of all the applications that are a must for you to have and to download in order to understand the Dubai real estate model better, real estate registration, and of course the valuation center. The third unit highlights the broker's laws and obligations. Again, keep in mind that this is a course that targets all stakeholders, but very specifically licensed brokers and real estate agents. We address bylaw number 85 of 2006, which basically applies to all brokers who deal with the sale or the purchase of properties registered at Dubai Land Department. Now, this is a very important law because technically this is the law that came out in order to organize and regulate the role of the brokers in the real estate sector. Prior to that year, prior to 2006, prior to that law, we did not necessarily have an organized and registered requirements or registration requirements for the role of brokers and real estate agents, but that of course changed, and the need for having such a law pretty much was the conclusion of the fact that the real estate industry is very important to the economy of Dubai, and as such, in order to allow it to grow on the right framework, on the right foundation, there was the need for these laws to be introduced. So some of the highlights of that law addresses the agency contracts between brokers and their clients, how they actually need to be in writing as a precondition to the broker being eligible to be paid his fee or the commission. All brokers are required to comply with the code of ethics. So again, this is not exclusive to Dubai. It's not exclusive to the profession of the real estate sector. Pretty much all professionals across the board, they have to abide by the code of ethics, by a code that apply to their profession. So be it a doctor, be it an auditor, no matter what profession really you are in, there are a set rules in terms of ethical standards that you have to abide by. So the same applies for, of course, the real estate profession. A broker may not enter into a transaction that will violate the laws and the regulations. And this is why we brief you, like I mentioned earlier, on the laws and the regulations that pertain to the real estate industry in Dubai, simply because you want to make sure that you don't violate them. All transactions made by a broker must be recorded and documented, and those documents should be furnished to the contracting parties when requested. A broker must furnish his or her clients with all details of the negotiation and substantial issues that might be related to the subject of the transaction. A broker must make all of their offers in good faith, regardless of which party he or she represents. A broker should not represent himself or herself as a buyer in the transaction, and if he or she does so, they are not entitled to a commission. So we even take you further into the whole business of POAs, power of attorneys. It's used a lot in Dubai simply because you do have to recognize that a lot of our buyers or investors are international based, so they don't necessarily live in Dubai. Some of them, they purchase properties for the mere fact that they want to invest in it, they want to rent it out. So they end up utilizing POAs or appointing POAs in order to represent them in the transaction without the need of any monetary amounts that is given to him or her, and should do so as instructed by the client. So when do you release the checks? What happens in case of defaults? These are all type of topics that we really address in the DIPC designation course, and the fact that a broker must compensate any party that incurs a loss as a result of the broker's deception, misrepresentation, or negligence. The fourth unit sheds more light on important legal concepts and practices. So we talk about the difference between leasehold versus freehold. Again, recognizing that a lot of people necessarily from where they operate in or in the countries that are licensed and they are registered to practice the role of a real estate professional may not know this distinction, because these distinctions don't necessarily happen in their country. But here, yes, we do have ownership based on a leasehold versus a freehold. So we talk about the differences between the two, and the fact that there are still areas in Dubai that is not even designated for foreign ownership. So we take you in depth into the difference between designated, non-designated areas, leaseholds, and freehold areas. We talk about the requirements for the sale of off-plan projects, the requirements for a developer to register off-plan projects, setting up the escrow account, and the approved fees that the developer may charge. So we talk about the NOC charges, the what we call the certificate, no objection certificate that is needed to be issued by the developer every time there is a resale of the property. And we also address the smart application Dubai Rest. Like I mentioned about the role of ERIS, guys, this is a very important application. My suggestion for those of you following us today through the International Property Show is, if you have not downloaded this application, feel free to do so. It is really very, very helpful for you to understand the real estate sector in Dubai a bit more. It has many I should say functions and fundamentals, and at the same time many services that even if you don't log in as a licensed broker, you can learn a lot about the Dubai real estate sector through it. I want to highlight the Mashru'i service, which is also very important because it provides you up-to-date information on all registered projects in Dubai, classified according to the developer name, the location of the project, the type of the project, and the percentage of completion of the project. It even gives you, for example, information about the brokers that specialize in a specific project. So let's say you are an investor, you had bought a property on the Palm and you want to sell it, and you're not sure where to get started, you're not sure who would be the right broker to list that property with. By downloading that app and by clicking on the Dubai investment map, or for search specific project, you can even get access to all the registered brokers in Dubai that have had transactions done on the Palm. So that way you know that you are actually listing your property with an actual expert, market expert, or a registered professional. In the fifth unit, we discuss the relationship between developers and brokers. Where we highlight how developers are prohibited from hiring brokers that are not licensed and registered under Bylaw 85 of 2006. All developer broker contracts must be registered at the Dubai Land Department for the broker to be paid commission. Brokers must ensure that the project has been registered at Dubai Land Department. So it is part of your duties as a registered broker that you make sure you only represent developers that are registered and licensed, and that you only sell registered and licensed project for that specific developer. You want to make sure that that specific project has a trust account or an escrow account that has been opened in the project's name, and that the developer has obtained the proper approval from Dubai Land Department to advertise for that project. So that falls directly under your responsibility. And this is why we brief you on it again as an international broker, just because you are held accountable for all this due diligence to be done from your end. Broker must ensure that the money received from the developer on the sale of off-plan projects are deposited in the escrow account, including loans for that specific project. The broker must obtain developer's approval of any marketing material that he's going to be utilizing in order to help the developer sell his project. And it also addresses the developer's right to terminate for buyer's default and the buyer's right to terminate on developer's default. So again, I'm not giving you all the details. This is something that you get more information on if you are interested to take this further by earning that designation. But of course, in the course, we go into point by point and we go into further depth on each and every outline I'm giving you today. In the 6th unit, we explore the sales process, again, from A to Z, as well as the various contracts that are involved in that process. So typically, we usually say, how does the sale process proceed? It proceeds when, or the starting point is when the real estate owner decides to sell his or her home. And usually this is where he tries to get the names of the licensed brokers who are experienced, that are successful in selling that specific given type of property, or even in that specific location. So the real estate owner then interviews brokers, discusses the situation, and agrees to an exclusive listing with one broker, or sometimes an open listing with more than one broker. So yes, in Dubai, you do have the option of having an open listing or an exclusive listing. I understand that in other areas in the world, like for example, in the US, I know you guys only are used to having exclusivity, in terms of the seller only appoints one agent in order to list his property. Here, it is up to the seller to decide whether he wants to restrict that type of listing to one broker, or if he decides to appoint more than one broker. The most important thing that that seller needs to understand is, of course, they need to make sure that they have the proper agreements with these brokers. And this is where, again, Dubai REST application comes in. It is through the Dubai REST, specifically under the Dubai Broker Service, that the broker has access to all the agreements. So if you want to sign an agreement between the broker and the seller, this is where the broker usually create what we call a contract A, accessible through the Dubai service, the Dubai Broker Service under the Dubai REST. And it is through that contract A that the seller can then decide whether he wants to appoint that broker on an exclusive basis or as an open listing. Regardless, of course, there's always limitation to the contract in the sense that it's not open-ended. It has a beginning and an end date, like the case with all contracts, as it should really be. So let's say the seller does appoint you on an exclusive basis, but then they're not happy with the service that they are receiving, or you're not necessarily giving them the attention as an exclusive property that it deserves, then the seller, of course, has the right to cancel that contract and change the contract to an open listing with more than one broker. This is also where we also say, as a once you as a broker find a buyer for that property, we also advise you to have a contract with that buyer, also to protect the rights of that buyer and yourself as a broker in the transaction. And this is what we call contract B, again, accessible through the Dubai Broker Service under the Dubai REST application. And then, of course, once the buyer and the seller agree on an offer, and they need to sign a contract, which we call contract F. And this is typically what we used to call in the market an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding between the two parties that includes information about details of the property, of course, details of the buyer, details of the seller, details of the seller's broker, details of the buyer's broker, all the registration numbers, making sure that the broker is a registered and licensed broker in Dubai, details, of course, of the property, how much the sale price, how long is the reservation period, and any extra terms and conditions that the buyer and the seller decide to add into the contract. So, of course, it gets a bit more complicated if there is a mortgage on the property or if the buyer is a mortgage buyer. So all of that information usually is included in that template, which we call Contract F, like I mentioned, again, accessible through the Dubai REST, through the Dubai Brokers Service. Further depth, of course, will be given to you if you elect to take this designation or to take that course. In the 7th unit, we discuss the various types of sales models. We try as much as possible to summarize the sale models into the very common 4, meaning, as you typically know, sometimes the transaction could be as easy as the unit doesn't have any outstanding mortgages and the buyer happens to be a cash buyer, as in a buyer who can actually pay for his property out of his money, not cash, briefcase cash. I'm talking about the fact that he does not need a mortgage in order to finance his property. This is usually the fastest and the easiest type of transaction. We still advise the brokers to allow enough time during the reservation period, simply because you still have the requirement to get an NOC from the developer. So you want to make sure here that you are protecting your buyer and seller's interest by allowing a minimum of 15 days during the reservation period in the contract, just simply because you want to kind of predict what if the developer, for example, is delayed in issuing the NOC, if there was, for example, any reason for the seller to settle certain matters with the developer prior to the developer agreeing to issue that NOC, in terms of, for example, any unpaid service charges, outstanding maintenance fees, that could be something that would prevent the seller from being able to sell his property. So even though it is easy and fast, especially if, for example, the buyer and the seller happen to be in Dubai, or they do have the proper POAs to represent them, we still advise the brokers to allow enough time for this transaction just to be able to protect the buyer and seller against any defaults that they could encounter from situations that are out of their control. Like I mentioned, with the issuance of the NOC, it's issued by the developer, so that makes it a third party, and that could potentially delay the matter. The second model that we address is a little bit more complicated. This usually happens when we have a buyer who is not banking or waiting on a mortgage, but he's actually buying a property from a seller that has a mortgage on that property. So the buyer here is a cash buyer buying a mortgaged property. And this is a bit more complicated in the sense that the way the process works in Dubai is, in order for the seller to be able to sell his property that has a mortgage on it, he needs to settle that mortgage prior to selling. So again, if the seller has the financial ability to settle his own mortgage, then we really don't have a big problem here. The seller goes, settles his mortgage with the bank, get all the required documentation, the release certificates from the bank, get the original title deed from the bank, because as you guys probably know or don't know, if there is a mortgage on the property, the original title deed is usually held with the bank until that specific mortgage is settled. So in that case, we would request the seller to take care of his mortgage prior to transferring of title to the cash buyer. However, the complication comes in when the seller does not have the financial ability to settle his own mortgage. So in that case, what the seller is expecting is for the buyer to settle his mortgage. So now we have a cash buyer who's settling the mortgage of the seller. And the law or the process tells you, you got to settle it before you sell, which means the buyer is expected to settle someone's mortgage prior to the transfer of property into his name. So the most important thing here is, or the most important aspect of this process is how do I protect the interest of the cash buyer who is settling the mortgage of a mortgage seller before transfer. So this is where the proper way is to block the property. So we do have a blocking process. And again, through that course, we talk in depth about what are the requirements for the blocking of the property. And then what happens post blocking, buyer goes to settle the mortgage. At least he's protected because we have blocked that property, meaning that seller cannot do anything with that specific property, cannot resell it, cannot do anything really with it until the property is unblocked. So hereby we are protecting the cash buyer's interest. And then of course that process could take about 30 days because again, it requires certain documentation from the seller's bank. Once that is received, buyer and seller can unblock the property and then of course transfer the unit into the buyer's name. And that way this is where the checks technically can be exchanged and given to the seller. So this is a proper mechanism that is very important for you as a broker wanting to practice this profession in Dubai or through your affiliation with a licensed broker here in Dubai. You need to understand the importance of the blocking process. And then of course, like I mentioned, you unblock the property and the property gets transferred from the seller to the buyer. The third sales model that we also talk about is the mortgaged buyer, mortgage-free property. So now the buyer is not a cash buyer. He is a buyer who needs to apply for a mortgage from a bank. So, but he's buying a property that is mortgage free. So that is a third model that also requires a bit longer, a bit more complicated than the first model I was briefing you on. Why? Because again, of the involvement of a third party, which is the bank. So here we say at a bare minimum, you as a broker, the first question that you should ask your buyer, do you have a mortgage pre-approval in place? Because once you have a mortgage pre-approval, then at least that gives you first an idea about his financial position, because you want to take them about viewing certain properties. And in order for you to know what he qualifies for or what's his budget, you need that mortgage pre-approval because it gives you an indication about his financial position. And then of course, from there, you can go through the whole process, which like I mentioned, could potentially take a bit longer than a cash to cash, simply because then the bank has to value the property, issue a final offer letter. So that takes a little bit more time. And then the mortgage itself has to be registered with Dubai Land Department. So again, about typical 30 days maximum to 40 that we tell you to bank into your reservation agreement between a buyer and seller in order to protect your parties. And the last model basically is the mortgage buyer mortgaged property, which we usually say is the most complex. And it tends to be most complex in the sense that when you're specifically dealing with a bank, for example, that observes Islamic financing versus a bank that observes like what we call the conventional financing. So this technically tends to be a little bit more complicated, a little bit more tricky, doable. We just tell you to allow a bit more time simply because you're dealing now with two banks, and these two banks have different processes, have different procedures in order to clear that loan. In the 8th unit, we look at the mortgages law. Again, specifically, like I mentioned earlier, when we're dealing with a mortgage buyer or a mortgage seller, we talk about broker's commission. What is the broker's commission for a sales transaction? What is the broker's commission for a rentals transaction? I'm not going to go into a lot of details here, again, due to time limitation, but I can just tell you that there isn't necessarily anything in terms of the law that maximizes how much you can charge or minimizes how much you can charge, be it on sales or rental transactions. However, we do have what we call the market norm that pretty much dictates the prevailing practice that dictates how much is a typical commission for a sales transaction and how much it is for a commercial transaction, rental transaction, but it does differ technically between a residential and a commercial. And we talk a little bit again in terms of the mortgage law, which is law number 14 of 2008. We don't give you a lot of details on it because we do recognize you're not bankers, you're not mortgage brokers, you are real estate brokers. However, we do tell you enough information that you need to know as a broker in order to advise your clients accordingly. So we go through the process of how a mortgagee must be a bank or a financial institution that is authorized and registered with the proper authority, which in this case is the UAE Central Bank, for practicing property financing activities, how mortgages should be registered with Dubai Land Department, otherwise they're considered not valid, how the buyer usually has to pay 0.25% of the mortgage value, not property value. And again, we tell you why there's a distinction between the two, payable to Dubai Land Department in order to register his or her mortgage. In the remaining 2 units, we briefly discuss the laws that apply to landlords and tenants, starting with eviction and ending with the rental increase laws. It also addresses a landlord and the tenant rental disputes, as well as the power of attorney in real estate transactions. And again, I've had so many questions, guys, before about why is it important that we as brokers understand the laws pertaining to rentals if we're focusing on sales. Well, my answer to you guys is they are very much intertwined, simply because you can be selling a property, but if that property is ready, if that property has been tenanted, then these laws come in use for you. They're very much important for you to know what they entail, simply because the process changes. You know, today there are laws in Dubai that governs that relationship between landlords and tenants. So you as an owner cannot just simply evict the tenant. There are certain notice periods that you have to serve. That specific notification or that specific notice period needs to be sent through the proper means, through notary public, registered mail. So you need to know basically the ins and outs of how do we go about issuing these notices, and how can we evict that tenant. And this is pretty much what we go over in detail. And at the same time, if you are selling a property for an investor who wants to rent his property, you need to be able to educate that investor about his ROI, about his yield. So we talk about potentially how much can this property be rented for. So we address the rental index. We talk about how can you go about calculating the rental increases. How can you educate the investor about not even his expected return for the first year on his investment, but what is the expected return in the future as you try to calculate how much would the rental increases be, given that you satisfy all the conditions and the notice periods as well. So we do go into depth about all these topics. And in order to reduce the number of rental disputes, the Rental Dispute Committee or the Rental Dispute Center has launched the following initiatives. And I really found it that it is very important for me today on this platform through IPS to let you know that they have what we call a new service accessible through the Dubai Rest app. Again, I'm going back to tell you how important it is for you to download the Dubai Rest app, because it really has a lot of benefits and a lot of functionalities that can give you more information about how we operate business in the Dubai real estate market. This service that we call basically RGC is a service that is a first of its kind, and it is in the world. This service will allow a tenant to inquire whether or not a rental case has been filed against them, a landlord to inquire about a potential tenant and whether a case has been filed against them in the past, or for the tenant to inquire about the landlord and whether they are known to cause legal problems with their tenants. We have what we call the remote litigation service. service. And this actually came into play during the lockdown, during I want to say the March to June period. Some people are still utilizing the service, but this is where this is when we realized the importance of having remote access for the clients, for brokers, in order to be able to continue about their business within the real estate sector. So this service allows the parties to rental disputes or the representatives to attend a hearing before the judge electronically. And this new mechanism basically works as follows, just to be brief on it. The claimant can choose the option of remote litigation at the time of registering its rental dispute case. A date and time will be fixed for the hearing of the case electronically. On hearing date, a link will be sent via email to the parties. The parties can use this link for attending or hearing the case electronically along with the judge, and then the judge will then fix a date for the judgment, after which the judgment will be available for the parties electronically. So this again takes you into how, yes, COVID did force us to employ certain technologies in order to innovate and to continue doing our business. Having said that, Dubai, and of course, in applying Sheikh Mohammed's vision, had that idea of being smart and to have all those kind of options and utilities for people to be able to operate electronically even before this pandemic forced us to move into these means. If you want, guys, more information about this course, like I mentioned earlier, you can email us, you can visit the website. The email, I have it here on screen, info.drei@dubailand.gov.ae, or feel free to visit our website, the DREI website, which again, I have it here on screen for you, www.drei.gov.ae. With that said, I'd like to see if you guys have any questions for me. Karen, how are we doing with time? Are we good to go?
No, we still have enough time, a little more time, I guess. And I actually received questions from the audience. We will try to cover up everything. I guess you answered most of the questions, but for the sake of our audience, we have to repeat it again. Can I start with the first question?
Absolutely.
The courses which are offered, are they free for all, or they come with a certain cost? I know for sure there's a cost, but how much? Maybe you can.
Of course, that's a very good question, Karen. And again, that's what I love, the fact that we still have time to address them. So, of course, the courses, there is a cost associated with the different courses that we offer. Specifically, as I mentioned earlier, for DIPC, it is very affordable. It's at $200, 755 dirhams. However, by visiting the Dubai Real Estate Institute website, you can take a look and view the catalog of all the courses that we offer. We have exact details and description of each and every offer and the costs associated with the offer. So we have executive courses that can be, again, very much affordable, even though the word affordable, I have to be careful because it's relative to each and every person from their own point of view. But I do say they are affordable, I think, for pretty much everyone. And we also have the certification courses, which is also tend to be a little bit more, but again, within the affordable range. Having said that, I do want the audience to be aware of the fact that we're not just all about money. We are into the education of the sector. So we do host a lot of awareness sessions, campaigns, webinars. These are, of course, free and available to anybody, especially if you join our membership. Like I mentioned earlier, the iDream membership, it really, guys, opens up and it unlocks a lot of potential tools that you have for free. At the same time, for example, just to name a few, you can look into Masar, which is, I believe, even through the IPS, you guys have hosted a session about Masar, which is an artificial intelligence recruiting program. You can have access, like I mentioned, to all the webinars that we've hosted. They are uploaded, available on our website. You can follow the DREI also on YouTube. So we have a YouTube channel. Feel free to follow us and subscribe to that channel. And through that, we have plenty of resources, and these are all available for free.
And what I can say maybe is, of course, the cost in general is totally worth it, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, moving to our second question, who are eligible to take part in these courses?
So I mentioned that earlier, but I'm happy to address it again. The key point here, the key requirement is, of course, someone interested in real estate, and if you are licensed and registered in your home country. So it is an international designation for people that are registered brokers, professionals in their home country. That is the number one requirement. And then after that, simply you just take the course, you go through pretty much in details all the different sections that we've addressed in our session today in detail through an online self-learning portal. You finish that, and then you take an exam also online. If you pass the exam, you will get a certificate, and pretty much that certificate allows you to be able to sell and practice in Dubai.
I think that's very much clear. And the next question, what's the general duration for the courses?
For the courses in general, I mean, of course, it depends on the course that you're taking. So we have a course that could be a 3-day course, about 6 hours a day. We have a course that could be just 1 day, 5 hours. So it depends, again, is it a certification course? Is it an executive course? Or is it a course with our international partners that is done, basically, it could be over a 10-day period. It could be over a 2-week period. We have the real estate diploma. So it really differs. It depends from course to course. DIPC, the beauty of this course is once you pay for it and it opens up for you through the platform, you can study at your own pace. So you can take it in 1 day, you can dedicate 1 hour a day for it. From my experience, I would say if you really spend about 4 to 6 hours on it in a specific day, you'll be more than ready to take the exam and call it a day and hopefully earn your certification.
So on phase and depends for the course, right? Yes. Actually, there's a curious question from the audience, like regarding unblocking and blocking of the properties. Any separate payments for this, or the charges applied based on this?
So again, very, very good questions. And trust me, guys, this is all made available to you once you take the course. We always talk, for example, about the costs associated with registering a property. So when you register a property or when you buy a property in Dubai, you have to pay the 4% transfer or registration fees payable to Dubai Land Department. And these are 2% buyer, 2% seller, unless agreed otherwise. So even the beauty of the law here opens up the window or a door for negotiation between the parties, depending on what market we are practicing on. Having said that, in addition to that, there are still fees for the registration trustee, which is technically the trustee that takes care of the transfer procedures, and the additional fee, what we call an admin fee, are also applicable for things that pertain to blocking and unblocking of the property. But definitely, so if I want to give you, Karen, just to sum it up, if I want to give you an idea, so there's that 4% that you have to pay, and there is an additional maximum, I would say about 2,000 dirhams additional that you have to pay as admin fees, and that's maximum, including blocking and unblocking. And
I think that's a very good idea already for the audience to prepare for that amount. Yeah. Actually, we have a question from, let's say, the seller of the property as of now. Is it more easy to negotiate and necessary to have a licensed broker in selling the properties, or just I can sell it personally?
Very good question, Mr. Seller. Okay, can you sell it yourself? Let me take that question first. Yes, nobody can tell you that you have to work with a broker. So we don't have a law that says every time you have to sell a property, you have to work with a broker. Does it make the process easier? Absolutely. Again, I'm not trying to sell you on having a broker, but I really, truly believe that this is why you go to the professional in every aspect of our life, right? Today, as you know, technology allows you to do so many things, but like, for example, you get sick, you go to WebMD, you can pretty much get an idea about what disease you have. But at the same time, it can tell you that you only have 2 days to survive, and it can be completely wrong. So this is where you need to go to a doctor in order to get the proper diagnosis. And this is why I'm in favor, of course, of hiring a professional, specifically, Karen, because don't forget, Dubai caters to the international market, the Dubai real estate. So if you don't live in Dubai, if you don't know really the ins and outs, the regulations, this is where it pays for you to work with a certified and registered broker. And again, you can access all that information through the Dubai Brokers app on Dubai Rest. We've made it available to you. And that way to protect yourself and make sure that you are doing everything by the book. And definitely it will help you reduce the amount of time that your property could be on the market for.
Yeah. Save time, money, effort, and everything.
You have a professional, you know, and I really think they're worth every penny. I mean, I don't want to go into a personal encounter that I myself had to recently. I was actually currently in the US, and I was looking into helping my friend buy a home, a vacation home, and you really don't know where to start. And by talking to a broker, she did an amazing job. She gave us an idea about the different areas, different budgets. So it was definitely worth every penny that she's going to earn.
I think you answered it very clearly based on your experience. Yeah, so I guess we still have 2 questions I can provide to you. Does the Dubai Rest app have a function which allows user to access the customer service department to ensure or inquire also and register any complaints or address any emerging issues?
I want to say 90% yes, only because I do apologize in the sense that they always do updates to the app. Having said that, there's 2 other ways that you can ask questions and make sure that you got the answers. Dubai Land Department website, so you can go through the DLD website and register a complaint. They actually have a specific section for that. And at the same time, you can call the toll-free number, which is the hotline number, which is 800-4488. 800-4488. That's a great number for you to know about, because it gives you directly, it hooks you up with the customer service, who not only can answer your question, if they can't, they will know where to forward your call to, so you can talk with the right experts. So do forgive me regarding the Dubai Brokers app. I just have to double check, but you have other ways to get all your questions or complaints.
Yeah, the website and the toll-free number is given. Yes. Last question. Is there any validation for the seller or broker on the platform? Do they get vetted?
Yes. So what happens is when you download the app, anybody can download it, right? And you have, in a way, I'm going to use the technical terms that we are usually used for. So there's the front end and the back end of everything, right? So you as anybody, an investor, or you, Karen, Hiba, we have nothing to do with real estate, but we want to know a little bit more about what this application is all about. You simply download it, and you have the front end that gives you access, like I mentioned, for example, to the registered developers, Mashru'i. If you want to know who are the registered brokers, how are they ranked, where do they specialize, that is information that is made available. They even have, for example, a section on frequently asked questions and answers pertaining to the rental market, straight from RDC, straight from the judges. The remote litigation that I just mentioned, that's applicable and available through the front end. Now, if you are a registered broker, that's the only time that you can access the back end. If you have a number registered through Trafisi, meaning that you are a licensed broker in Dubai, you have access to the back end, which gives you access to the contracts that you can issue to deal with your buyer, seller, or between a buyer and a seller. And further, of course, utilities that I won't go into too much details about. So you do have to be registered to get to the back end information. So there is a vetting process in place.
So you mean 90% can be accessed, and the 10% if you are registered licensed broker.
Exactly. And if you're not, you can't access that information. Yes. And one more thing, Karen, on the app that I get a lot of questions about. People usually ask me, you know, for example, from a seller perspective, I have a title deed, and how do I make sure, for example, that my title deed is available and it's free from any potential issues that could prevent me from selling that property. We also have that function under the Dubai Rest where you can validate someone's title deed. So if I'm a broker and you're my seller, you gave me a title deed through the Dubai Rest app, I can actually, for example, now all the new title deeds have like a barcode, and I can use my phone to scan that barcode, and through the Dubai brokers, the Dubai Rest app, it can tell me whether you are actually, it validates that title deed. That's the best way to describe it. And if not, if there's any issues, it doesn't validate it, this is where we tell the broker that you need to conduct further due diligence, contact Dubai Land Department to inquire as to why this title deed wasn't validated.
I think it's now time to explore or the benefits of this Rest app. Yes. Before we wrapped up, Ms. Hiba, do you have any final words or quotes or some advice that you can provide to our
well,
audiences?
please allow me to thank you and to thank the whole IPS team. You guys have done an amazing job. Like I mentioned, I just recently came back from my travels, so I've had the luxury of not necessarily following you live, but utilizing the archive functionality, which I do advise everybody who is watching us today that if you had missed a session, to check the archive functionality. It's amazing. You guys have had really a vast majority of topics, and each and every one of them was added to my knowledge and added to added value, if I should say. So just allow me to do that. At the same time, please, if you have any questions, if you want to connect with me directly, feel free, like I mentioned, to either contact us through the general email or the Dubai Land Department or the REI website, and anything that I can be of help for in the future. It's amazing what we have here in Dubai. I'm super excited about coming back. And honestly, guys, the real estate market, investing in Dubai's real estate market, and just judging from how Dubai was able to handle its response to the pandemic versus the rest of the world, that in itself, from someone who just came back from travel, I can tell you I feel way safer here than anybody else in the world.
Way safer. Thank you so much. And you did amazing presentation today. Thank you once again, Ms. Hiva, for sharing your insights with us and becoming a certified Dubai International Property Consultant. So next in line is the property presentation by Dubai Investments. So stay tuned. Thank you once again, Ms. Hiva. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.